So the summer ends, and now you're both going into your final year. I know, Morgan, you were finishing up your bachelor's degree. Sarah, you were finishing up like a dual track bachelor's MBA.
Yeah.
But in any event, you're about to be done with your undergrad and or master's. Talk us through kind of the timing and how you put your materials together and what the application process was like, I guess.
Yeah, so I tried to have mine. I knew I wanted to go straight through. I've kind of always known that.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to have my application materials like ready by
applied September 1st.
Oh,
I remember September 1st on the dot.
Yeah.
This is Admissible. I'm Natalie Blazer, Dean of Admissions at UVA Law. I'm so excited for today's show because I am welcoming two of our brand new first-year law students. They have just finished their first full week of class at UVA Law. I'm so thrilled to be sitting down with these two ladies. Also goes to show that even in your first week of law school, you have time to do other things besides just study. So I'm so grateful to them for making the time. My guests today are first-year law students Sarah Beddingfield and Morgan Gaspar. Sarah and Morgan are alumnae of UVA Law's Roadmap Scholars Initiative, which we are going to talk all about today. It's so great to see you two here. Typically, I introduce my guests with a little bio. Obviously, I know both of your bios quite well, so I thought, why don't we just let you two introduce yourselves, share a little bit about, where you're from, how you got to UVA, maybe a fun fact about yourself, whatever you want to share.
Sure. As she mentioned, my name is Sarah Beddingfield, and I was a part of the Roadmap Scholars Initiative. I was born in Chicago on the South Side, but spent a big portion of my teenage years, middle school, in Central Illinois, small farm towns. So I've kind of gotten best of both worlds, but hardcore Midwest native, and then ended up coming to Virginia for undergrad. So I went to school about an hour from here in Lynchburg, Virginia, at Liberty University, where I studied national security studies and strategic intelligence, and also had the opportunity to get my MBA. So I got a pretty diverse experience there, but along that path knew the whole time that law school was the plan, and had known that since years before. And so I got a pretty diverse range of experiences and internships and community involvement and things like that as well that I absolutely loved there. And I guess a fun fact is the best deep dish pizza in Chicago is definitely Giordano's.
Okay.
So you have to give it a try if you're there. As a native, it's my absolute favorite.
I'm going to write that one down.
Yes,
Thank
it's so
you,
good.
Sarah.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I am from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I lived there my entire life before moving to Nebraska to go to the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. I majored in political science and economics, and I also knew my basically whole life that I wanted to go to law school. My other experience other than UNL law related was, of course, the Roadmap Scholars Initiative and my internship that I did through that. And I guess a fun fact about myself is that after I become a lawyer, I want to also become a sommelier.
Well, you're in a great place for wine for the next 3 years. What is Sioux Falls like? I just have to know.
It's a medium-sized city, but there's something about it that is so it's just a very pretty city. Mm-hmm. Everything is very nice, quiet. I love it there.
How are you two feeling? I need to know, having just finished your first full week of law school.
I feel like we feel pretty good.
Good.
I feel like going into it, there can be a lot of just kind of voices speaking into your law school experience before you even get there. And I've heard a lot of people oh my goodness, hardest 3 years of your life. It's so difficult. And just be prepared to be absolutely grinding all the time. You're never going to sleep. I've heard a lot of that. But then I've also heard a lot of people that are it was the best 3 years of my life. And coming to UVA, obviously the community and being a part of that was a big reason that I came. And that has absolutely proven true. It's been a challenge, but it's also been so much fun. I've had an absolute blast. The people are amazing. My section is great. So it's made it very manageable. I don't feel overwhelmed yet. I feel really supported. But
yeah, I totally agree. I feel like it was kind of everything everybody always says it is. It's every bit as fun as everybody claimed it would be. And I think the first week has been good, just kind of sorting out what advice I've received about law school is actually working for me. So
Great.
It's been a really good first week.
Just to be clear, people talk about law school being fun, about UVA law school being fun. I don't hear anybody ever talking about other law schools.
Yes, only UVA, yeah.
Just UVA specifically.
And I cannot believe you two are in the same section. Like
That was wild.
Yeah.
That caught us both by surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that they do the sections, I mean, I know for a fact that was completely random and like not intentional, but I also think it's kind of nice. You have a familiar face. That's
It's
great.
fun.
That's great. Any favorite like class or professor so far?
I really like Gulati, not just because he's the professor, most likely, I feel like, to listen to this podcast because he loves podcasts.
He assigns podcasts with our reading.
Shout out Professor
Yes.
Gulati.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. We love you.
Yeah,
Aw.
he's my favorite so far.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, he's incredible. I love like the class interaction that he has. Like he's so easy to talk to. I also love Professor Bowers in Crim Law. Not because I'm partial to that, but I feel like he's really good at getting us to think not just like what is the law now, but what could it be. And I love like that theoretical thinking and thinking more philosophically of not just how it stands, but also how we can improve it. And he's talked about that a lot, which I feel like makes it more engaging mentally for me, but he's also incredible.
Tell us a little bit about like sort of the 1L tradition that is coming up this weekend. We were chatting, chatting about it before we started recording. I remember it so fondly from 20 years ago. I would love for listeners to know a little bit about this 1L tradition that happens like pretty much right when you get here.
I'm glad we're talking about this because it was like such a surprise to me. Like I had no idea that this existed.
Maybe I had heard it at some point, but it was also pretty new to me.
Yeah.
So coming up tomorrow, actually, is Dandelion, which is where the 1L sections come together and they do like a choreographed dance as a section. And it's usually some type of theme revolving around your section letter. That can vary, whether it's like song titles or an actual theme. People are pretty creative with it. But ours is centered around Section C. And then you all dance, and apparently whoever wins plays the school's softball team. So if we get second place, I'm not saying we'd be like disappointed, but also
That's a goal.
I'm not sure if we're ready for that. But yeah, Dandelion is coming up tomorrow. It's
such a fun time.
It's so much fun. Like the practice, we were out the other day, like at the softball field, getting absolutely eaten by mosquitoes, but laughing our heads off. It's a really fun concept. It's cool.
Yeah. A great way to bond with your section and get to know people from other sections. So, to be young, to be a 1L at UVA Law, it's just the best. Okay. So as I mentioned, the topic of our show today is UVA Law's Roadmap Scholars Initiative. It's the program that introduced both of you to our community a couple of years ago. I'm going to share the description from our website of Roadmap before we dive into your individual experiences so listeners just kind of know what we're talking about. So from our website, the UVA Law Roadmap Scholars Initiative supports undergraduate sophomores interested in pursuing careers in the legal profession. The program's goal is to expose participants to the law school, and the legal profession, and to help them become competitive applicants to any of the nation's top law schools. A strong preference is given to applicants who are first-generation college students, students with limited financial resources, and or students who are interested in pursuing a legal career but lack access to opportunities to learn about law school, the admissions process, and the legal profession. Qualified applicants will be selected from a national pool and must show a record of high academic achievement, convey a passion for being challenged as a learner, and demonstrate a commitment to community service. So I was here for about 2 years by the time we launched this. It was in 2022 that the Roadmap Scholars Initiative was launched. So the first summer of the program was the summer of 2022, and then you two were in the second cohort, so summer of 2023. So I would love to know how and when each of you even learned about this program, right? Because it is billed, as I mentioned, as geared towards people who might not know about law school and stuff. So it's kind of like a catch-22. I remember at the time being like, but so then how are they going to find out about this? So tell me a little bit how you first, became aware of it.
So I actually was working at my school's public policy center at the time. The person who interviewed us for our article, Melissa
Castro.
She kind of just randomly sent it to the person I was working with, and that person like knew I was interested in going to law school and shared it with me. So it was really just like very serendipitous that I even heard about roadmaps. But they had both been a part of the same organization.
Oh, I see.
Yes, yeah.
And then she ended up
and then my coworker sent it to me.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, yeah.
Oh my God, funny.
Yeah.
How about you?
Mine was significantly less professional. I've shared this story a few times, but coming into the undergrad experience, I had just gotten out of, obviously, the college application process. And I was like, going into law school, I'm going to want to know a little more about the cultures of the schools. And it's much easier to target your applications and really know what you want when you're able to kind of know that in advance instead of trying to figure it all out in the application process. So I went and followed a bunch of law schools on Instagram that I was like, okay, I would consider applying here so that throughout the next few years I could kind of see what their activities are like and their student life and see academic announcements and things like that to kind of follow along. And I followed UVA Law. And a little while after that, they posted an article about the first cohort of Roadmap Scholars. It would have been that summer. And as I was reading through the article and the description, I was like, oh my goodness, this is like programs that I was involved in high school that helped transition me to undergrad, helped me figure out how to even like write and prep for an application and like do scholarship applications, things like that. And I saved it to my Instagram because like this would be a great resource if I was able to get into that. And then about a year later, that following spring, I pulled it back up and applied.
Wow. By the way, I wouldn't say that's less professional. I think that's smart. I think that's how young people today are learning about opportunities.
Yeah, you were like very much more like prepared to apply to it. Like I was just very lucky. Yeah.
I had learned from the undergrad process of being proactive is going to only help you and trying to kind of figure out what you want. And I probably applied way too broadly in undergrad. And in law school, I wanted to go into it with a better idea of what I specifically was looking for and what I thought was going to be a good fit for me. So yeah, I do recommend doing that if you're interested in law school.
Well, and like obviously part of my goal with this episode of the podcast is like, I feel like podcasts are pretty, can get to a lot of people, which is why I started it in the first place, actually. So I'm hoping that if anyone out there like wouldn't necessarily have known about it, maybe they will know about it now. So I know that you had both been already thinking about law school, by the time that Roadmap came on your radar. So what is it about the program that like resonated with you and made you say, okay, I'm going to apply?
I think just the opportunity to come down here and like be able to really learn about the legal profession as somebody who like doesn't have a lawyer in the family, knows nothing about it, and also like somebody who didn't have the time in undergrad to like go to pre-law events and do that sort of thing, and the fact that UVA was like providing us with like foregone summer income so that we could do this, it just made it very like available to me. So that's what really resonated with me.
Yeah, my experience was pretty similar coming into it. And it kind of reminded me of just programs I had been involved in high school that helped me transition to college. And I had some barriers in that process as well. And Roadmap Scholars seemed similar in that it was very forward thinking about things that we might encounter. Because it's not like internships, for example, it's not just about doing an internship. When you come from very unique backgrounds, it's, do I have time for this internship? I'm working multiple jobs.
Right.
Can I pay for the cost of living in this city when, I don't have extra income and I'm thinking about how I'm going to pay for school? Like those types of things, as I was reading through it, they were all taken care of. They were all thought of. And it really showed a lot of forward thought of like, this isn't just transactional. Like we truly want to support you no matter what barriers that you're going to come to us with, because that looked different for all of us. I know like some people, it was maybe unique family situations. Some people it was really financial, but they had the forward thought to try to cover all of those things and be exceptionally supportive. But also similarly to what you said, I didn't necessarily come into it with some of the experiences that I got in Roadmap just because of those barriers, and it opened a lot of doors that I just would not have had otherwise. The internship is a huge part of that, but also just like the LSAT prep course, there's no way while paying for school I would have been able to buy the LSAT prep course that they provided us with. So I think it was kind of all of the above, but it was just incredibly supportive, and it provided things that we wouldn't have had access to otherwise.
Or even like known to do. Like I would have never gone out and spent as like much money as UVA gave us for like LSAT prep. Like I didn't even realize how important that was.
Yeah.
So yeah, you really just like don't know what you don't know, I feel like, as a first generation student. And so for somebody to lay it all out for you like that is really invaluable.
Yeah. Well, and I cannot emphasize this enough, but like at the time Roadmap was launched, you know, I remember thinking, okay, these are college sophomores. And maybe one day, like, we will actually see people who went through the program, like, here. And the fact that you two are sitting right here, I'm probably going to say this multiple times throughout the episode, like, who might not have otherwise known or gotten interested in UVA. Like, it just makes me so proud of the program and just so happy that it's doing what it was, you know, at least in some parts designed to do. So the website, as I mentioned, is pretty thorough and talks about the entire application process to apply to Roadmap. Is there anything you all want to share about like your own personal experience? What was involved? Was it like essays? What did you have to put together for the application?
I remember there was like a personal statement, not like called a personal statement. Mm-hmm. It was just like respond to this prompt, which I honestly feel like was very helpful. Because as a sophomore in college, like I didn't have a personal statement yet. Mm-hmm. I feel like that personal statement, resume.
There was like a writing component. I think there was a resume component. Mm-hmm. And we also did the interview. But you mentioned like advice or what we would say for people coming into that is definitely like be authentic in the process because they know that you're a sophomore. Because I remember mm-hmm. doing some of it being like, what even is this? Like, what am I supposed to write about? I have no legal experience. Like, what do you mean? I'm trying to apply to this like law school program at this great school. But my interview, I remember specifically like sitting in my dorm and completing my interview and being like, okay, most of that interview we talked about my involvement in the marching band. And so I was like, okay, this is not as scary as it seems. Like they aren't expecting you to have those things coming into this. They're not expecting you to have the same experience as everybody else. Like I said, we all had really different backgrounds and barriers. Like don't try to be something that you're not. Just tell them your authentic experience. And they want to know you as a person because they're looking at you, just like with law school, they're looking at you holistically. Like what is this person wanting to do and what are their barriers to getting there? So just be authentic about that.
Yeah. I mean, right. You're 19, 20 years old at the point that you're like interviewing. I mean, the whole idea is we're going to give you a lot of the tools and everything. And so I love what you said about, not trying to be something that you're not at that stage or not pretending like you know it all because this is the program for people who might not be aware of certain things. Visiting law schools can be so helpful to your decision-making process, but planning ahead is key. Before you hit the road, be sure to listen to Season 1, Episode 2 of the podcast for tips on structuring your visits and how to make the most of each experience.
And I think the other thing that really solidified my decision to attend UVA was when I visited, just noticing how I felt in the physical space of UVA law. I had visited one school in a city and came out of that visit thinking, okay, this is it. This is my top pick. And then I came and I visited UVA and I just felt really comfortable in the building. It felt open and airy. It had all this natural light. It just really drove home to me that there was an affinity I was feeling for UVA law that was intangible, and I would not have gotten that opportunity without visiting not only UVA, but other schools as well.
So I would love to talk about that first summer of 2023 when you two were here. Tell me about the summer.
I think there were 12 or
it was 13? Like 12 or 13 of us.
Yes.
I should have counted in advance. Yeah, there was like a dozen or so of us. Yeah.
Okay.
We lived in Bond House. It's like UVA student housing, like apartments. which I felt like was the best experience ever. Like it
was so much fun.
4 of us in an apartment, and like it was just constant.
Yeah, it was on main grounds, but it was
fun.
empty at that point. And so it's like you and all your besties just like hanging in this house with nothing but free time and fun to have. But yeah, we were constantly like in each other's apartments. There were a couple of us with birthdays over the course of the time that we were there. So we would have like birthday parties.
Aww.
We went to different restaurants around Charlottesville. We'd walk all over grounds. Ran all over the law school, maybe into some faculty lounges that they let us into. But it was so much fun.
It sounds so fun. And so this is the summer before your junior year of college. All of you are at that point. And so you're having a lot of fun. You're young, you're in college, you're in a new city, you're meeting new people. And then talk about like sort of the programming when you were in the law school. First of all, this was like 3 weeks. 3 week
I think
program?
it was like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
We were there about a month.
Yeah. So you were taking like kind of mini courses, my understanding is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, for the most part at the beginning, it was like abbreviated 1L courses.
Okay.
So we kind of got some basics in that. We did like a short torts class. We did a short Civ Pro, things like that. But then in the following weeks, we got to do some other classes that were kind of outside that bounds. We did like an education law class that was absolutely incredible. We did constitutional law with Dean Golliboff at the time. And our minds were blown.
lucky.
We were so unprepared.
Oh my God.
We did not
Yeah.
realize what we were getting into, but she was brilliant. It was so much fun. It only like made me fall in love with the legal field even more. And I'm sure you had the same
I totally
experience.
agree. And I honestly feel like the information, like I was able to retain a lot of it, and it's been like helpful just in our first few weeks, because what we focused on during those courses was like, it was just condensed doctrinals kind of like the basics. So I feel like it's served as a really good starting point for now.
I could imagine some people coming to Roadmap and they're sitting through like basically like you said condensed law school and they're like like never mind. I am not doing this. But obviously for you two, it just got you like more interested and more excited. So that's great. And then outside of those sort of courses, my understanding is you're also meeting alumni and maybe like networking, for lack of a better term. Like what are the other things that you did during the summer aside from kind of those courses?
I think it's different for each cohort too, I will also say, because like we had some changes we had to make, so we weren't able to do some of the field trips that some of the other cohorts have done. But I know like some cohorts have gone like to DC and met with people there. We got to go to, I think, the Albemarle County.
Yeah, we got to watch like drug
courthouse,
court, I want to say.
And we saw
cool.
like an interaction there, and that was really interesting. But it also varies summer to summer. Like they try to make sure that you're seeing a range of things. And I know they've met with people in private practice and public service. But we did a lot of like lunches and receptions. Yes, you feed us well. And that was where we got to do a lot more of the networking, I would say, just by meeting people.
So you go back after the, 3 weeks to a month that you were here. You go back to school in Nebraska and in Lynchburg. Were you keeping in touch with your cohort during that time? Or, talk to me a little bit about when you went back to school, what like the continuation was, if any.
I feel like I had pretty consistent contact with most of the cohort my junior year, especially because we had our meetings with Will about like how things were going.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel like I kept pretty well in touch with everybody, and even after the second summer and still today, I talk to a lot of them quite often.
Yeah, there were like also groups that were in apartments together that stayed like really connected. I know some people literally like traveled to visit each other's schools and spend time together.
Oh, cool.
And some people were more like the texters that would be like messaging in the group chats, and then some people like you see all their social media and you keep up more that way and just like chatting back and forth.
So that reminds me, obviously you two are the only from your cohort who are at UVA Law. Do you know if anyone else in your cohort ended up at like another law school?
I don't think anybody else even applied last year.
Okay.
But I do know, I just texted somebody from our cohort before this, and I was like, I know she just got her LSAT score back.
Okay.
So I was like, so are you applying September 1st to UVA? And she said she was, so.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
You have people applying this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, That makes, oh my God, I can't, September 1st can't come soon enough. And by the way, you two, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but you did apply sort of straight out of school. So it doesn't surprise me that people, and you're in one of the earliest cohorts. So like you two are like really the first two, you're the pioneers who have come, but I do know that I think it's just going to continue to, bring returns down the line. So you each, my understanding is that the roadmaps, you also get a mentor, like a student mentor or an alumni mentor. Talk about that.
Yeah, my mentor was absolutely incredible. Her name was Faith, and I specifically requested her.
Chatowski.
Yes. Because she had gone to my undergrad, and we were interested in a lot of the same things, kind of by chance, actually. And had a lot of the same kind of values and direction that we were going. And so I specifically requested her because I felt like she would have a lot of insight. But she was incredible. She guided me through kind of the application process, but also LSAT prep and essay writing. And I think one of the cool things about mine compared to just what I've heard, at least from some others, is that ours kind of continued on. Like I called her like 2 days ago and was like, Faith, what are they talking about in this clerkships meeting? Like, what should I be doing? Because she's doing some things that I eventually want to do. But she's been incredible. And I know there were some other people that have also had like continued relationships with their mentors that's been really special.
That's awesome.
So her name was Amina Miriam.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
Of course.
She was wonderful. She was a great resource in my like application cycle, and I felt like it was just really useful having somebody who was going through like especially the 2L like legal internship process, because I had no idea like beginning this law school process that hiring started that early or anything like that.
Yeah.
She definitely taught me a lot that I just like wouldn't have known if I just weren't talking to a law student.
So for the folks in your cohort who decide they want to continue through Roadmap, there's a second summer. So the summer of 2024, this would be, it's much shorter. I think it's just a week. How many people came back from your cohort?
All of us.
All of you?
Came
Oh,
back.
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so what was that? When your first summer, did you meet the original cohort?
Yes.
Okay.
They came, I think, for like a week because they were doing, what we would have been doing the next summer. And they were great. They were so fun to hang out with because they were also in Bond House with us at the same time.
Fun.
So everyone kind of got to hang out that way and get connected. But then when we came back our second summer, we had like the same thing with the cohort behind us. Which was
awesome.
super fun. And like a few of them were texting me the other day about their applications and things like that.
Great.
So you get a mentor assigned to you, but I feel like the cohorts become mentors themselves to the one before.
I totally agree. I feel like I was nervous like it was like the night before my internship, and I like called the person who had done that internship the year before me. And also, like, when I was applying to different schools, one of the other roadmaps went to law school, was a great resource during that as well. So I feel like the cohort above us has been really helpful as mentors.
Yeah. I mean, you're like a part of a community, and it's a rather small community, and a very carefully selected. So I feel like that's just a built-in network that, really can't be overstated how important that can be. So that second summer, you're on grounds for about a week, and then as has been mentioned, you go off to do internships. So you mentioned, Morgan, that you were at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office.
Yes.
The word salad.
Yeah.
And then where were you, Sarah?
I was at Sullivan and Cromwell in New York.
Okay, amazing. And so how do you apply for the internships? How did that whole process work? How you figured out where you were going to intern for the rest of the summer?
We were sent a list of both public and private internships that we could rank.
Okay.
So we all ranked them, gave our reasons, and I think they did a great job with giving everybody the internship that was a good fit for them.
Amazing.
They consider like your long-term goals, but also the experience you have. Because I know at least for mine, some of them, it was like through an alumni where they just automatically place you at the internship. But then for others, the firm or the internship host does want like your resume and wants to think through candidates as well. I know I had to go through that process to be at the one that I was in. And so the school does a great job like trying to match you with your interests and long-term goals, but the process can look a little different kind of depending on what you're wanting to do.
Yeah. So the summer ends and now you're both going into your final year. I know, Morgan, you were finishing up your bachelor's degree. Sarah, you were finishing up like a dual track bachelor's MBA.
Yeah.
But in any event, you're about to be done with your undergrad and or master's. Talk us through kind of the timing and how you put your materials together and what the application process was like, I guess.
Yeah, so I tried to have mine. I knew I wanted to go straight through. I've kind of always known that. Mm-hmm. So I tried to have my application materials like ready by
applied September 1st. I remember September 1st on the dot.
Yeah. And I think it was really helpful to have like the consulting on our applications while we were down here the second summer and being able to just apply early. So yeah, I got my applications in relatively early and then finished my senior year.
Yeah.
I did not apply September 1st. So if you're listening to this and freaking out a little bit, like I'm not ready, that's okay. I applied a little bit later. I think I applied in like November. So not super late, but coming into it September 1st, I wanted one more shot at the LSAT because my summer had just been a really unique set of circumstances regarding my internships and then also working at home and some other things like that. And so I wanted to take a little bit more time because I had heard people say, and I believe yourself included, like a better application a little bit later is better than rushing it and not putting your best foot forward. So I took a little bit more time on my essays and making sure that my LSAT score, I got another second chance at that. And then I applied in November and had applied to, obviously a range as most people do, and then ended up hearing back in, I think, like February. So mine looked a little different because most of my senior year, I was kind of in that process. But I felt like it was manageable because I was really committed to going straight through. It felt like it was the right choice for me, and I had reasons for that. But definitely can be difficult if you don't feel like you're ready for it because senior year is already a lot. And so taking time over the summer, like to write your personal statement like we did with the people here at Roadmap and like really taking time to reflect and think through, am I ready for this? Is now the right time? And having some of those things prepared and thought through in advance can make it less stressful. And I think made my process a little easier because we had already kind of worked through some of those components.
Yeah, I think you two did exactly what I advise all KJDs to do. First of all, like you just said, Sarah, putting thought into it, right? Like sometimes the concern with KJDs is, I don't know what I'm going to do after graduation, so I'm just going to do this. Clearly, that was not the case with either of you. You had done like a law school specific program. You did legal internships and you just had worked. You had worked other jobs, totally not legal related, during your summers or during school or whatever. And I think that makes a huge difference when you're thinking about the intentionality of applying to law school. And I know, because I read both of your applications and was very excited when both of them came through, you two probably could have gone to any law school you wanted to. And when we were coming up with this program in 2022, I remember specifically thinking like, this is not just to get people to UVA Law. Ultimately, it's really to just open doors for folks to go anywhere to law school, or to maybe put them on a different path that they might not have otherwise known about. If we get people at UVA Law, that's great. But if people go on to be admitted to, I know one of our other roadmaps from the very first cohort was admitted to Stanford Law School. So, people are going to get admitted to all the fancy schools. And if we can get some of the people back to UVA, obviously, like the two of you have been, that's to me just, the cherry on top. It's not necessarily the goal of why the program was founded, but it's, of course, what we're hoping will happen, at least with some people. So I think listeners probably have a good sense based on you talking about the program, but like, just talk us through that decision, because you had a connection with UVA. It sounds like a very positive experience with Roadmap, but like at the end of the day, was that a difficult decision to come to UVA? I would just love to hear more about it.
For me, it was a it was a really easy decision. I think it's not for the program isn't for the purpose, of course, of like students going to UVA, but I feel like once you've been in Charlottesville, like you're going to want to come back, especially for law school.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it was a very easy decision. I've always felt like the same things that people say about UVA law as students, I felt in roadmaps, just like the friendliness of everybody and the willingness to work together and create like a supportive environment. I really felt that here, and I thought like, especially as a first generation student, that's like something that was very important to me, like because I don't know exactly what I'm doing all the time. That
nobody does. Secret is nobody does.
Right. So I feel like being able to like rely on the people around you for those sorts of insights is really important, and made it a very easy decision.
Yeah, mine was pretty similar. I feel like after you're here and you're like meeting the professors and alumni and just getting kind of a feel for UVA law in general, like it's hard not to want to be here. Like truly, it's difficult to not just fall in love with the people and the place and the community. And so UVA was just first choice all along. And I did apply other places. Like obviously that needs to be kind of a part of your thought process, just because obviously UVA is a great school. But the whole time I knew if I got the opportunity, I would be here. And it made my decision pretty easy whenever I was admitted. All the other offers, I'm like, oh, thank you very much. But I got my first choice. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. And so now you are here. It feels almost still like surreal to me that you guys are here. You're here. You're 1Ls. It sounds to me like you've already had a great first 10 days of class or whatever it's been at this point. What are you most looking forward to while, over your 3 years?
I would say probably a hybrid of the community and the academics. So far, like the community has definitely been the most fun part. Like I'm very social and very extroverted. I'm like softball captain, so I'm like fully engaged in all the 1L things and absolutely love it. But the academics was also a big draw for me to UVA, and I've gotten to already kind of connect with some professors and people that I think their work is really interesting. I'm hoping to get involved in clinics, and I love that UVA has a really wide spread of opportunities, regardless of what your like subject matter interest is, or if it's a specific like type of law or service, like you can be involved in just about anything here. And so I'm hoping to do that down the road. Obviously, that's more of a 2L, 3L thing, but I've already talked to some professors about like research and things like that I could possibly even get involved in next semester. So I'm looking forward to both of those things.
Same. I feel like I am most looking forward to just all the opportunities to be able to like narrow down exactly what it is that I want to do. And I think that in the coming years, and even the second half of 1L, I'll have a lot of time to sort of roll my sleeves up and see exactly what kind of work I like doing.
You guys have it all ahead of you. I am like getting so nostalgic. I know 1L can feel so overwhelming, but it seems like you already are, but really just enjoy it. It's not something to just get through. It's something to really experience. And I'm so happy for you too that you have it all ahead of you. It's a great segue, Morgan. You're saying figuring out what you want to do. I'm curious, knowing that you've just started and this can and probably will change, do you have an idea in your head? Like thinking ahead to your 1L summer or 2L summer or your postgraduate career, like does anything call to you right now? Again, doesn't have to be what you end up doing, but I'm just curious where your interests might lie.
Yeah, I've always been interested in doing civil rights work.
Okay.
And currently my primary interest is in like reproductive rights advocacy.
Awesome.
So yeah, I don't necessarily of course I might learn new things and things can change, but I'm pretty set on that at the moment.
Well, and also you can pursue academic interests even if that doesn't become your career. That's the beautiful thing, right? Like there's no such thing as a major. There's no such thing, after 1L year, you can take whatever you want, whether it's related to your future career or not, which I think is awesome. So
I'm also like really public service minded, and that's definitely something I would like to pursue in the future. But one thing that was really eye-opening, actually through Roadmap, was how that can look really different in a lot of different ways. I'm really passionate about like child advocacy specifically, but I ended up actually being exposed to pro bono child advocacy projects at Sullivan and Cromwell through their pro bono program, which was awesome. And so I feel like I'm going into it with here's what I'm really interested in, would like to be a part of, but I also could see that being fleshed out a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Whether that's specifically in like a child advocacy role directly, like state prosecutor's office where I had previously worked and am really passionate about their work, or maybe even for some time in a pro bono type role. But yeah, I feel like either direction, I would like to land in that space and be involved in that, but still kind of figuring out, like you were saying, what that looks like, because the opportunities once you're at UVA, like, are just absolutely incredible and kind of hard to grasp and comprehend at first.
And hard to narrow down.
Yes.
You know? It's
Yeah.
The hardest part is narrowing it down, not finding, you know, I totally relate to like, what about that? Then this.
Yes.
And it all
Yeah.
sounds great. Well, you have not one, not two, but three of my classmates in career services. So I know that you are in extremely capable hands and very caring hands when it comes to narrowing down and figuring out your path. So I'm super excited for you guys. Before we go, as you probably know, most of our listeners are thinking about applying to law school, or they're getting ready on Monday, September 1st to apply. I think you've already shared a lot of great advice, but if there's anything else you want to make sure listeners know, like as they're starting this process.
I would say limit your time on Reddit.
Great advice.
Don't become too neurotic about it.
That's good
At least
advice.
try not to. Like, it was, obviously, we both went through a very competitive cycle, and you can get, like, really in your head about, like, why haven't I heard back from them when this user, you know, like, just limit that, run your own race. And apart from that, like, if you haven't taken the LSAT, I feel like take it like it's the only time you're going to take it. Like, really, really, really prepare, and, like, don't do it until you feel like you're absolutely ready.
Yeah, great advice.
Yeah, I would definitely echo all of those things. But one thing that was really important for me in the process was just being authentic in my applications. Because especially coming from unique backgrounds, you can feel like you should be something else. And like spending a lot of time on Reddit and like comparing your journey to other people's, it does you no favors. Like admissions, I'm sure, wants to know who you really are, what you're actually going to bring to the table. And that was something that became really important to me. And like, yes, have people read your essays, but also if there are parts of it that people are like, oh, like, you know, what about this or this? Like, make sure that it's something that you really feel like should be conveyed about you. And I had one time on one of my essays, someone's like, I'm not sure, like they might interpret that this way. And I'm like, well, it's really important to who I am. And I feel like I need to share it. And so if you really feel strongly about it, like do those things and don't get too lost in what other people are doing. Run your own race, like Morgan said, and stay grounded in that. Like for me, my faith was a really big part of that, and just like remaining confident in what you're doing and just authentic in who you are, like that is also going to extend far beyond like law school applications. It's not just applications. And if a school isn't, you know, a good fit for who you really are, then you don't want to be there. So be authentic in what you're saying and who you are.
Such great advice from both of you, really. And I agree. It extends beyond law school, right? Like if you're putting on a different persona, you're not going to end up with either the right law school, the right career, the right partner, the right friend group. You know, it's really just universal advice. And I remember very well both of your applications. The writing was, of course, extremely strong writing from a quality perspective, but just real, you know, very real to who you two are. And I think that is, I think, the most important part is just being yourself. So love that advice. Morgan, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. This was a lot of fun getting to see you both again and reconnect. And I'm just so excited for everything that you two have ahead of you. And congratulations on being the first two roadmaps to enroll at UVA Law.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been fun.
This has been Admissible with me, Dean Natalie Blazer, at the University of Virginia School of Law. My guests today were Sarah Beddingfield and Morgan Gaspar of the class of 2028. For more information about UVA law, please visit law.virginia.edu. The next episode of Admissible will be out soon. In the meantime, you can follow the show on Instagram at Admissible Podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and please remember to rate the show wherever you listen to podcasts.